Hi, hello. Alcius here. Hi, Warrior Cats Clan Generator Challenge. You read the title, you know what this is. I wasn't originally gonna do this challenge, but I've been, practicing character design lately, and I kind of just pulled up the generator one day, clicked around, and then got way too attached to these characters when I started mapping out relationships. So now we're here. So introducing Morningclan. Before we start, some very basic clan lore I brainstormed while I was designing. I imagine that this clan used to be known as, say, I think I chose the name Moss Clan, which is a really big clan. Imagine modern Thunder Clan sized, and maybe even bigger than that. But then there was some sort of big battle. I haven't figured out who the battle was against, but there was some sort of big battle where a majority of the older senior warriors were killed off during this, since they were the ones on the front lines doing all the battling. And as a result, after the whole thing was over, the clan renamed themselves Morningclan to kind of symbolize a new beginning. And it's it's mostly just a reason to have the clan be a bit smaller and not have to worry about who this cat's parents are, because they died. Yeah, so it was mostly just a way to write off this cat's parents are dead because of the battle and not have to worry about it, since the clan generator doesn't really generate that many cats. But yeah. Also, I imagine that this clan lives in next to a waterfall, in a forest next to a waterfall. I'll put some pictures on screen if I remember of what I mean. But I imagine this is the kind of place where they live. I don't know, I think it's pretty, and it's probably why they were named Moss Clan beforehand, because, moss grows by water. But yeah, that's basically most of the lore I came up with. It's very basic, but just some general in-universe stuff. A couple of notes that I did give up following the descriptions of that the generator shows after a little. Mostly because I like cats, right? But I'm not I don't know what most of these words mean. I don't know what a pseudo tabby is, and when I googled it, Google wasn't very consistent with the results. And in general, when I got towards the end, I sort of when some of the descriptions are the same, you kind of deviate a little to differentiate the cats. I mostly just prioritize having character more than the actual description the generator gave me. And I also had a lot of fun making these not animation friendly, since most of the cat designs I usually do are really simple. They're kind of just you can make them in a pic reel and they look the same. But yeah, so I tried to go a lot more all out on these, and add a bunch of markings, and it was fun. It was fun. So yeah, anyways, with all that out of the way, let's get on to the actual characters themselves. So first up is our leader, Slugstar. I imagine he's a pretty good leader. He cares about his clan, he'll do things to help them, but he's also somewhat of a pushover, I imagine. The way I have it described in my notes is if he was doing a group project, everyone would tell him oh, sorry, I was busy, or sorry, I was sick, can you do my part for me? And he'll be yeah, and then he'll end up not sleeping for a week to get everyone's parts done, and then he'll complain to his friends about it, and then his friends will be oh, I can't believe they did that to you, and then he'll be well, it's not their fault, and then they'll just look at him oh, bruh, he was probably a lot worse in his apprenticeship days, though. He's learned when to know when someone's taking advantage of his kindness now, but he also can't help himself sometimes. Mostly he's just a pretty laid back leader, trying his best to keep his clan together and to rebuild it after the battle. Some backstory: he probably he lost his dad from a green cough plague when he was an apprentice, and his mom probably died during the battle. He was made deputy at a pretty young age because the previous leader thought that the clan needed a more non-war oriented cat in charge, and he wasn't too ready for the position when he took it, but he's grown into it now, and he's his mate is Marigoldfoot. The two were never really too close as apprentices, but after the battle they grew close and bonded over their shared losses, and eventually they became mates. He's best friends with the nursery queen Sootwag and the medicine cat Blackwhisker. He's still pretty close with his generation, the cats who were apprentices with him at the same time. But Sootwag and Blackwhisker were kind of his little friend group growing up, and they're still pretty close. He has a daughter named Russpaw, who he and Marigoldfoot co-parent with Slick. We'll get more to them later. He and Russpaw are pretty close, even though because of his leadership duties, they don't spend as much time together as she does with her other two parents, but they're still close. And finally, he has an older sister named Rookstripe. Growing up, they were never really close because of the whole age difference. But after their parents' deaths, they grew a lot closer, and Silkstar will now go to her for advice sometimes. Alright, next is Marigoldfoot, who is the deputy of the clan. He's stoic and quiet, and he was a lot more like non-social as an apprentice. But nowadays he's grown out of his shell a bit and is mostly just a strict like parental figure to the rest of the clan. Speaking of that, he's a good mentor. He is Silkstar's go-to choice to like if he needs a mentor and no one else is up for the job, he'll choose Marigoldfoot for it. He's like, he's a good mentor. His dad died in the battle, his mom is still alive and in the Elder's Den, and he spends a lot of time with her. Their personalities are really similar, and they enjoy each other's company. He's kind of like, back to the mentor thing, he's kind of like even if he's like if you're an apprentice and he's not your mentor, he's still like always gonna be there. Like, think of him as like, he's like the principal in school, you know? Yeah, the principal who also sometimes teaches classes. He's like a secondary parental figure, mentor figure to the rest of the clan. And even though some of the apprentices don't like him when they're younger because of how strict he is sometimes, like with their training, when they grow up, they'll like go to him for advice and respect his ways. So his mate is Slugstar, like I mentioned earlier. They're good, their own love, good for them. Sometimes they'll go out and frolic in the flowers, just like on their own, and everyone else just kind of rolls their eyes. And that's him. He's a good guy, trying his best. Next is our medicine cat, Black Whisker. He is rather soft-spoken and quiet. He's trying his best half the time, and the other half of the time he's wondering why he tries his best, but he grew up with a mother who like really wanted to be a medicine cat for the power it would give her, but was unable to due to being really bad at communicating with StarClan, and was eventually forced out of the role. So she decided to go with the second best thing and forced her kids into the position instead. Black Whisker and his brother Cormorant Tail were born with a natural talent for talking to StarClan, which, you know, wasn't the best thing for like, you know, the whole thing. And their father was also kind of distant since his parents were like ever really mates. They just had a kid and then broke up, so rip. Black Whisker ended up taking up the medicine cat apprentice position because of Cormorant Tail was dating someone else at the time. Even though Black Whisker, as an apprentice, he had a crush on Slugstar, or Slugpaw at the time. He never told anyone. He just kind of angst quietly in the corner. He's mostly gotten over it now. He like sometimes still like stares at like Slugstar and Marigoldfoot, and he's like, damn, I wish I was them. But he's mostly grown out of it and respects his friendship with his best friend. He's relaxed a lot more after his mother has died in the battle. He's trying to reconnect with his father in the Elder's Den. He's not really close to his brother since they were kind of raised separately, but you know, they aren't like on bad terms or anything. They just aren't like close. He has an apprentice, Rosepaw, who he's very eager to get to. Yeah, even though they don't really get along, he's eager to get him to the position where he can become a full medicine cat, just so that he can stop being a medicine cat as soon as possible. He doesn't really like the position, but yeah, he's, you know, trying his best, like most of the cats. Morningclan trying their best. Next are our warriors, and our oldest current warrior is Swanstorm, who is also the oldest cat in Slugstar's generation. So she is a former kitty pet who joined the clan as a young apprentice, She was always a bit of an outcast in her generation since she was older than the rest of them, and she was like a kitty pet and was really insecure about it. As a result, she was like a little bit of a bully to Black Whisker and Slugstar and Slowleg, but she's matured now and apologized for it, and they're cool. Yeah, so she's matured a lot, and she's realized that the rest of the clan doesn't really look down on her for her heritage more than she tends to look down on herself for it. So she's like, while she's still grumpy and snappy a lot of the time, it's a lot more like teasing and endearing than mean and bitter. She's a bit of a tough mentor though, which leaves her and her only apprentice Campion Whisker on pretty bad terms. She's just not really good with a younger cat. She's best friends with Gorseleg, who was also her best friend as an apprentice. And she watched like Gorseleg's relationship with Cormorant-tail fall apart over and over, which again we'll get to later, and supported her best friend throughout it. When Gorseleg fell apart with Cormorant-tail for the final time, the two kind of got together as mates, but not really. They're just kind of like, you know, they don't have a label for it. The rest of the clan doesn't really have a label for it. Whatever, they're just vibing, who knows. Yeah, she doesn't get along with Cormorant-tail. She sees him as just someone who's hurt her best friend over and over. But yeah, they argue a lot. Next up is Gorseleg, who is Marigoldfoot's brother. He is enthusiastic and very loud, which kind of makes him like the opposite to his brother. But he got together with Cormorant-tail as soon as they almost as soon as they became apprentices, and they kind of like dated on and off for like the next 30 moons. They're both very argumentative and hot-headed cats with very strong opinions, and it just happens that these opinions tend to clash a lot of the time. And Gorseleg also has a tendency to say things without thinking first, and he has a hard time apologizing, so not the best thing for a relationship. But Cormorant-tail's like bitter and snappy attitude doesn't really help either. He's finally settled down a bit recently with Swanstorm, and is somewhat happy with the way things currently are, even if, you know, there are still lingering feelings, and, you know, but he figures this is as best as he'll get. But outside of his romance drama, he is a bit of a troublemaker, and he likes to play pranks on the apprentices. He's pretty close to his brother, and he likes to follow him on like training, when like he's training apprentices, and like jump out and like scared the apprentices. And Marigoldfoot is very often not amused and will yell at him in front of the rest of the clan, and everyone just kind of like gathers around and watches them. But you know, the two are close, they just annoy each other. The apprentices kind of see him as like a funny substitute teacher that's a fun time whenever their usual mentors are busy, and you know, it's always going to be a good day when Gorseleg's around. He isn't interested in having any kids of his own, but he is mentoring Rusted Paw and enjoys spoiling her when her parents aren't looking. And now we get to Cormorant-tail, who is, as mentioned earlier, Black Whisker's brother. He is very grumpy, probably due to his lack of friends, and also his whole thing with Gorseleg. He's still very much in love with him, but what can he do about it? Look, as far as he's concerned, Gorseleg is head over heels in love with Swanstorm, and he has been rejected, scorned, and no one will ever understand his pain. He's kind of like Ashford, but less murderous intent. After he and Gorseleg broke up for the final time, he very quickly got together with another cat in his generation named Crowflower. The two had a very unfriendly, like, very bitter rivalry as apprentices. But as they got older, they kind of became friends. And after he broke up with Gorseleg, they kind of just got together because he was like, well, I'm going to show him that I'm also over him. To no one's surprise, they broke up very quickly. But Crowflower ended up having his kids after they broke up. And even though Cormorant-tail tries to be a good father, he's, you know, trying. Keyword is trying there. He's actually a kind of decent parent though to one of his daughters, Ravenpaw, who he also mentors. Unfortunately, all of his like bitterness and lack of abilities in the romance department has kind of rubbed off on her, and the other cats joke that he's made a little him. He does try. That's Cormorant-tail in a nutshell. He sure does try. Yeah, but he was he was lacking in a lot of parental love as a kid, since his mother wasn't really too close to him, and neither was his father. and he has an overdependence on Forceleg, which stopped him from really making friends within his generation. And overall, he's just really lonely and like not a fun time to be around as a result. But the other cats do try to involve him, you know, whenever possible, and you know, he's trying. Next up, Cootdream, who is the first cat who wasn't part of Fluxars and, you know, their generation. Her and her sister were they grew up in between the two generations, like older than them and younger than them, which left them kinda like lonely as they grew up. They were kids during the battle, and like old kids, like 6 moons around, and as a result, like, they don't remember the bloodshed as well as like the other cats, and kind of feel like, not left out, but like, you know, when you can't relate to anyone around you. As a result, her and her sister Heatheryear, like, they grew up very dependent on one another as apprentices, and her parents also died in the battle, so that's not fun. As an apprentice, Koopa was she didn't have a great temper and would often like, not like, you know, like on a whim, like kind of pull like guilt trippy like things, so like not on purpose, but like, you know, when like if your friend is leaving you and then you kind of like, you really want to spend time with them, you'll say something like, but I'm having a really bad day, like that. She pulled that kind of stuff on her sister. She's realized that it's wrong now as an adult, but she doesn't know how to fix it really. When her and her sister became warriors though, their relationship started souring a lot more, since Cootdream got along way better with the older cats now that she was a warrior, while her more reserved sister, like, you know, didn't really get along with them. And as a result, Heatheryear kind of saw it as Cootdream replacing her, and it didn't really help when Cootdream started, like, quote-unquote dating. I don't know, like, the word in between not mates and mates in warrior cats, they don't really ever mention it, but, you know, when Cootdream started quote-unquote dating Campion Whisker, Heatheryear almost saw Campion Whisker as, like, her final replacement, since their personalities are kind of similar, not really, but Heatheryear sees it like that. So the two kind of had this like big falling out, and you know. But nowadays, Cootdream, she tries to make up with her sister. She's like kind of in denial over how bad their relationship is, and kind of like just like sit down next to her to like eat together. And Heatheryear will snap at her, and she'll kind of just be there like making a sad face. The rest of the clan just kind of tries to avoid their negative energy. But outside of that, she enjoys Campion Whisker and her mate's sister Nice Dreams company, and they kind of vibe together. They're like a little family. She's currently training her first apprentice Daffodil Paul, and it's overall a fun, if not a bit lenient, mentor for her. She was also mentored by Slugstar, and as a result, she'll sometimes like go to him for advice. And you know, they have a pretty like older sibling relationship. It's nice. Next up is Heatheryear, Cootdream's sister. She is a bitter and angry cat who can't really bring herself to enjoy the company of anyone but her sister, and the clan mostly treats her as an outcast because she doesn't have any real friends, and she doesn't really get along with anyone. And those who do try to extend a hand to help her are usually met with just cold silence or like anger. To Heatheryear, her sister is the only thing that really matters in the world, and she's like really insecure about herself and is somewhat traumatized from having watched her parents die in the battle. And she's currently considering like kind of leaving the clan altogether, since she doesn't really have a place here, doesn't really have any friends, and the only thing that's really keeping her in the clan is her former mentor, Froststripe, who is now an elder, but the only cat that Heatheryear is willing to really listen to, and she sees him as a father figure of sorts. She enjoys painting on the walls of the Elder's Den and near Froststripe's bed, which uses from the fruits in the Medicine Cat Den and the forest around them. And recently, the other two elders, Beecloud and Lamprey Stone, have taken to joining in. And Heatheryear, kind of like, she looks forward to spending time with them every day, and she's like pretty close to them, and her only real friends are in the elders now. So next up is Nightstream, who is the oldest of the new generation of apprentices within Morningclan. She has been a warrior for a little now and is settling into her role. She's a very kind and sweet cat. She's a little bit shy and hard to talk to sometimes, but when she opens up to someone, they get along pretty quickly. She's an older sister type figure to the other apprentices, especially the newest warrior Poppyclaw and Rusted Paw. Her parents are Rookstripe and Froststripe, which makes her Slugstar's niece, and also technically then biologically related to Russet Paw, and the two have a very sibling-like relationship. Russet Paw always talks Nightstream into playing pranks on the senior warriors, and Nightstream always protests and always ends up going along with it anyways, and they both end up getting in trouble. But she has a little found family going on with her brother and Poppyclaw and Russet Paw. And she has ambitions to be a leader one day like Silkstar, and she's working hard currently to prove herself worthy of an apprentice soon in the future. She's hoping to get one of Rookstripe's kids and one of her younger siblings. Campion Whisker is Nightstream's brother, and a bit more outgoing than his sister, but a lot more hot-headed too. Unlike his sister, he finds Russet Paw a lot more annoying, but he puts up with her because he knows that it makes his sister happy, and whatever, that's good enough for him. The two do still bicker constantly, and usually when they do, Nightstream and Poppyclaw will just roll their eyes and carry on. He's a lot closer to Poppyclaw though, and they often head out on patrols together now that Poppyclaw's a warrior, and they'll like sit in like silence together, and they'll just like enjoy each other's company sometimes. He doesn't have the same ambitions as his sister, but he does seem to have a natural talent for healing. He doesn't really have any interest in becoming a medicine cat, but he does help Black Whisker around the medicine cat den sometimes. He is currently mates with Coostream, and they're pretty close already and already trying for kits, but Nightstream and Poppyclaw worry that they're moving too fast. But he's sure it's fine, nothing can ever go wrong here. Haha, ha. Finally, Poppyclaw, who is the newest warrior in the clan. He is a former rogue who joined the clan at around 6 or 7 moons, let's say 7 or 8 maybe, with his younger half-brother Rose. They were taken in because the clan needed a lot more cats to repopulate after the battle. And like Swanstorm, he's like pretty insecure about the place in his clan, even though the rest of the cats don't really look down on him for it. He's like internally, he still like sees himself as lesser for it. And he had a bitter rivalry with Russet Paw when they were younger, and that really didn't help. As they grew, the two also started respecting each other a lot more, and nowadays they're more like sibling figures who bicker a lot but would also die for each other. He's still somewhat overwhelmed in an environment he's still not all that used to, and more than once in his younger days he's considered leaving the clan. But he has a little found family in Nightstream, Campion Whisker, and Russet Paw now, and they keep him grounded and happy, so, He has a pretty strained relationship with his half-brother, Rosepaw, who is currently a medicine cat apprentice and sees his older brother as whiny, but Poppyclaw doesn't really know what to do about it, so he just tries his best to reach out to his brother and tries his best to ignore it when it goes downhill. His favorite hobby is watching Russet Paw get yelled at by her parents and then making fun of her. It's great, trust him. But yeah. Now on to the apprentices, starting off with Russet Paw, who we've talked about a lot already. As mentioned before, she is Slugstar, Marigoldfoot, and Slitwhite's daughter, and as a result, basically like the princess of the clan, and she knows this. She's really smug and hard to get along with sometimes, and she has a really big head about herself, and but she does she has a really big head about herself, and she's not afraid to insult people. But she does genuinely care about the rest of her clan. She's just really bad at showing it sometimes. She's very mischievous. She likes to play pranks and talk back to the senior warriors when the other apprentices aren't, since she kind of sees the entire older generation as her aunts and uncles, because Slugstar and Marigoldfoot, the rest of the apprentices either see her as a cool, older, cool kid who isn't afraid to talk back to their teachers, or they just see her as really annoying and wish she'd shut up. Both very valid interpretations. She's about to become a warrior. Her warrior, whatever they call it, the trial, the test. What do they call that? I don't know. Her warrior thing is coming up soon, and she's looking forward to finally being able to be equals with Poppyclaw and the rest of her little found family. And she finds the younger apprentices' romance drama amusing, and we'll get to that later. but she has no real interest in romance herself, and is pretty similar to her mother, Silkweg, like that. And now onto the Labor Numpaw, who is a daylight warrior / apprentice from a nearby Tuareg place. The rest of the clan kinda hates her. She comes to the clan during the day, usually during the afternoon, trains for like an afternoon, and heads home. And the rest of the clan just kind of sees her as like a kitty pet who's playing pretend in the woods and doesn't really have to struggle at all. She's also very like smug. She's also like that popular kid in high school who like 2 different people have a crush on him. But like as a result, she kind of like thinks the entire clan has a crush on her. I don't know, she's really obnoxious, but whatever. She and Rustboro really hate each other. It's kind of clown on clown violence. But that doesn't really matter to her. The rest of the clan's opinions doesn't really matter to her. She has her 2 girlfriends. She has a nice houseful. And you know what? She's just vibing. She's enjoying life. She doesn't care if other people hate her. She is having a good time and no one will take that from her. And you know what? Good for her. And then we have Daffodil Paw, who is Crowflower and Cormorant Tail's kit. So she doesn't really like to associate herself with her family, but no one can really blame her for it. Instead, she's actually a lot closer to her grandfather, Lamprey Stone, and her mentor, Marigoldfoot. Unlike the rest of her family, she's a lot more cheerful, and her pelt is also like a lot brighter colored than the rest of her family. You probably wouldn't even know that she was related to them, honestly. She's dating Labor Numpaw, but she and Ravenpaw also like fight over her a lot, and they're constantly having squabbles over it. The Labor Numpaw just kind of watches them and is very amused by it. The older cats also like to watch them and then like turn to Gorseleg or Cormorant Tail and be like, hey, those guys remind you of anyone? And then they'll yell at him. I don't know. This clan is a soap opera or a sitcom. This clan is a sitcom. Outside of that, Daffodil Paw is a pretty good hunter. She'll always beg Marigoldfoot to take her hunting and dreads the days when they're doing battle training instead. Other than that, she likes to think she's friends with Rosepaw since they were pretty close as kids, but they really aren't. Rosepaw basically just bullies her and she'll be like, aw, he's such a good friend. He just has a tough exterior, guys, don't worry about it. And then our youngest warrior apprentice, Ravenpaw, who is Daffodil Paw's sister and Cormorant Tail's mini-clone. She tries her best to win over her crush, Labor Numpaw, but she's really bad at it, and her father's advice is not helping at all. She is constantly at odds with her sister, and she's not really that close to her mother, Crowflower, either. And really the only person she's ever really close to is her father, which once again, isn't the greatest influence. Unlike her sister though, she is actually pretty close friends with Rosepaw since she talks a lot less and annoys him a lot less, and as a result they are like friends. They aren't close, but you know, friends. Other than that though, she is pretty lonely. She doesn't really have many people to confide in, and she actually does wish she was closer to the rest of her clan, but she died before she admitted that, so. And finally, we have Rosepaw, the Poppyclaw's younger half-brother and the medicine cat apprentice. As a kid, his mother died giving birth to him, and Poppy followed signs that they now think are from StarClan that ended up leading them to the clan. Rosepaw is very convinced that the signs were about him, and he is not a pleasant cat to be around as a result. He thinks that StarClan sent him, and the rest of these losers were just born into the clan, but StarClan chose him. He also just doesn't like his older brother. He thinks that he's whiny for thinking that he doesn't fit in the clan. Since Rosepaw himself only really has memories of being in the clan, he doesn't understand his older brother at all, and he's not afraid to tell him that. And as overall, he's not afraid to speak his mind. The other apprentices kind of hate him. Well, I mean, the Labor Numpaw and Rosepaw kind of hate him, but you know. He's a medicine cat apprentice for the power, for the prophecy to talk to StarClan, and not out of any interest in healing, which also annoys his mentor a lot, but Blacklister puts up with it because they kind of do need a new medicine cat. Like Ravenpaw though, deep down he is actually pretty lonely, and he doesn't really know why. He doesn't see a problem with his attitude, but he does kind of just think of it as the rest of the clan hates me because I'm special, but it's okay because special cats don't need friends. I'm gonna save the world one day. Now on to the queens. Crowflower, first of all, is part of Slugstar's generation and grew up pretty close to Gorslag and Marigoldfoot. But nowadays she's kind of grown distance from Gorslag, which is totally not because her now ex was not a particularly good mate to her, because he was still hung up on him. Don't worry about it. She is very over it. Don't worry about it. She and Marigoldfoot are still pretty cool though, and they go hunting sometimes alone. She found Cormorant Tail somewhat annoying growing up, but as young warriors, she ended up finding him endearing. StarClan knows why. Was it love? Who? They don't know. She doesn't know. But after Gorslag and Swanstorm got together, she kind of just got together with Cormorant Tail on a whim, cause why not? As an apprentice, one of her brothers died in the Greencock plague that also killed Slugstar's father, and her other brother died of his injuries in the battle later. So she, but growing up, she was always like really close to them, so she's kind of really lonely now. So Cormorant Tail was basically offering to fill that void for her, and she jumped on the opportunity. Like mentioned before, they were only together for like maybe a moon before they fell out, because obviously. But she ended up having his kids, Daffodil Kid and Raven Kid anyways. She's kind of mad that the two aren't really close to her, and instead either take after their father or just don't like her all that much, but you know. Despite her kids now being apprentices, she still stays in the nursery as a nursery warrior and is currently helping take care of Rookstripe's new litter. She tells the clan it's because Rookstripe just like needs help with her kids, but everyone like knows she's really just avoiding Cormorant Tail. Anyways, outside of that, she is a generally quiet cat, but she also loves a good challenge. If someone is competing with her, she gets really competitive and nasty and is not afraid to play dirty. And this hasn't really died off with age either. Hi, it's me, Alcius, re-recording the Siltleg and Rookstrike parts of this video, cause someone couldn't shut up in the background and whatever. Okay, anyway, next is Siltleg. She is a part-time nursery warrior who loves kids but has no interest in getting a mate of her own. And as a result, she also finds her generation and the current generation's romance drama incredibly entertaining. She does have she has some level of empathy issues. She finds it hard to, relate to other cats sometimes, but she's trying her best and, you know, she's working through it. She is best friends with Slugstar and Black Whisker. She is one of the few cats aware of Black Whisker's true feelings for their mutual friend, and she's really sympathetic about it. She gossiped a lot with Slugstar in their apprentice days, and she still kinda does it even if Slugstar has kinda grown out a bit, but, you know, he'll still listen to her and laugh along. She especially enjoys being a sort of pre-apprenticeship mentor to older kids, and she'll have like kids for around 5-ish moons practice very basic battle training when they're still in the nursery, and a lot of younger cats as a result see her as kind of like a cool older sister. Anyways, Slugstar and Marigoldfoot wanted kids, and Siltleg did too, and despite she doesn't want a mate, so, you know, everything just kind of worked out in the end, and now they co-parent Rustboro, who she loves, and she's a lot less strict with her than her fathers are, and it's probably half the reason why she's still smug about herself. But it's fine. Yeah, other than that, she is a part-time nursery warrior like I mentioned earlier, so when there aren't kids to take care of, she'll do warrior duties, but she does enjoy taking care of kids. And I like her a lot. She is my arrow self-projection character. And finally, for the queens, we have Rookstripe, who is an older queen whose mate Froststripe is already in the Elder's Den, and she'll probably retire after this last litter and join her mate, but they wanted one more litter. She currently has 3 one-moon-old kids named Spider Kid, Mallow Kid, and Ice Kid, who aren't pictured, like I didn't design, but since they aren't like generated on the clan generator list, but you can see like impulse designs I made in a big piece here. She lived through the big battle without any physical injuries, but she was traumatized for a long time after that, which, you know, understandable. But she and Froststripe helped each other through it, and nowadays they're kind of like the perfect family of the clan, with their kids, Nightstream and Campion Whisper. And as a warrior, she was really good at mentoring. In a lot of ways, she was kind of Marigoldfoot's, like, they were very similar in personality, and she mentored him. And nowadays, she's, like, still pretty close to him, and, yeah, he's pretty, yeah, she's a good cat. She is, Slugstar's older sister, and enjoys being a sort of older sibling-like figure to the senior warriors currently. She also, like Soleil, she finds the whole labor paw and daffodil paw and raven paw thing really funny. But she does also hope that the three can work out their differences and have a good life eventually. And then finally onto the elders. Froststripe is the clan's youngest elder and one of the few survivors of his generation. His life has been pretty tragic. He lost his entire family due to the battle or the green cough plague or other events. But Rookstripe and the other cats that he grew up with helped him through it, and nowadays he's rebuilt his family and loves all his kids. He's kind of like if you imagine a theater kid but put him in a warrior cat setting. Yeah, that's Froststripe. He's really, yeah, but everyone loves him. Especially the apprentices and kids. They go to him for stories a lot of the time, for stories of the clan before or of Moss Clan, and he is more than willing to comply a lot of the time. On to Bee Cloud, who is Marigoldfoot and Gorsleb's mother, and she's really proud of her kids. She was blinded and had a leg torn off during the battle, but she's just happy to be alive and she's enjoying retirement. When she was younger, she liked listening to her children talk about their generation's drama, and nowadays she likes listening to Rusted Paw talk about her generations. She loves Rusted Paw. She's probably the other half of the reason why she has such a big head. Other than that, she mentored Swanstorm, and the two still somewhat get along. And she's really just like a chill grandma who loves her children and her clan. And she has, while she still has nightmares about the battle sometimes, she has Lamprey Stone and her children to help her get through it, and she's incredibly grateful for her family. And finally, Lamprey Stone. He is Black Whisker and Cormorant Tail's estranged father, and before the battle he was already very anxious and nervous all the time, and the mass massacre sure didn't help. He feels really bad about both his children's problems, but he doesn't really know what to do about it. But he has been trying to make an effort to reconnect with Black Whisker, and it's been going well. He's mostly quiet and lets Bee Cloud and Froststripe do the talking, but they try to include him whenever they can. And other than that, he's pretty close to Bee Cloud, despite the two never really being close before the battle, and they help each other through their trauma. And overall, he just hopes that his children can find their way to a good life, and then maybe he'll be there to witness their good life before he moves on to StarClan. And that's Morningclan. I love them. They're just trying their best, and I ended up actually getting really attached to them while I was designing them. And now I have a story arc idea for them, and God help me, because that is the last thing I need right now. But they're just a bunch of good cats trying their best. Yeah, I'm gonna go now since my voice hurts and I need water. But I hope you enjoyed that. Maybe more voiceover videos coming soon. Maybe, I don't know. I can actually deal with my own voice now, so that's nice. But yeah,